Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable brought to you by First Star Therapy. I'm your host, James Gardner, and this is a platform for the pros, by the pros. Passionate pros, organic dialogue. Let's chat. Thanks for listening. Let's roll. All right, and away we go live. Session 76, Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast with Alexandra Poletto this evening. Before we get to her bio, just want to thank everybody for being here live. Thank everybody for picking up the podcast. Actually, this platform, in a very humbling and extremely grateful for the award, was acknowledged for a special recognition award this week by the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association, connecting people, having conversations that matter, and continuing to make a difference. I think, the guests like yourself, Alex, and all of the people that are here and picking up the podcast, connecting with people's stories, connecting with information, and then from there, just connecting outward, connecting with others, and through all these channels, even during a pandemic and beyond. So for everybody, that award is definitely not mine, but ours. And this is what it's all about: community, driving community, connecting and growing together. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank the CATA. Thank you for the nomination to those that were part of that process, and for everybody for participating in this platform and this podcast, which is always brought to you by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. Our guest for session 76, Alexandra Poletto. Alex is a professional beach volleyball athlete. She competed for Colorado State University, where she completed an undergraduate degree, and then moved on to USC, the University of Southern California, where she earned her master's in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. With a competitive goal to represent Canada in the 2024 and 2028 Olympic Games, Alex continues to train at the highest of levels. She has experienced a myriad of injuries and practitioners along the way, and will share her path this evening. She's an advocate for younger athletes and fosters a mindset grounded in internal validation, being a primary source of fuel. Alex, really appreciate you making the time. I'll let you say hello and then welcome aboard, and we'll jump into all of the things.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And your intro, it speaks wonders to the athletic therapy and sports community, because I don't know if there is a lot of research done, but I think the biggest learnings come from talking to each other and learning from each other and seeing what works and what doesn't. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and a repeat guest as part of the
True.
Women in Sports platform, which is amazing. And now we get to dive into your story specifically, and all of the things that you've done, all of the things that you've experienced, and all of the impact that you have and will continue to have, not only as an athlete, but as a human being. And I really truly believe the expertise lies in your story, and that's where we want to go. So beach volleyball today it's June 6th. Today, if there was a day, at least in and around this city, if there was a day to play beach volleyball, it would have been this one. Scorching hot. We're sort of into the throes of summer here. But beach volleyball, where did that start? Obviously, you were indoors for a little bit and at Colorado State and before that, and then transitioned over at USC and then into beach volleyball. So it's a long and lots of stories and pieces to that. But where did it begin? Where did volleyball, the interest in that sport specifically? And I think it's always interesting to talk to the highest level athletes. So let me throw one more at you before you answer as part of that. Multi-sport or a singular sport focus as you were growing up? And then how did you end up where you are? You're on.
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, 100%.
It's going to be a long answer.
Yes, have at it.
Basically, I grew up in a very non-sport household. I don't think I ever watched sports on TV growing up, and people always are so blown away. I never watched a hockey game. I never watched a football game growing up. I still to this day, I barely understand football. It took me 5 years of American college experience to learn. But so my parents never really forced sport on me. I did love it just because of the social aspect growing up. So I did soccer and I did swimming for a while. I did track and field for a while. I did every sport that my friends were doing pretty much. Tried the basketball, but because of my height, I'm 6'3". I was kind of encouraged to try volleyball, which I was interested in, but I had no idea how to play. I wasn't very, what's the word, coordinated. Being 6'3" at grade 7, I was what they say lanky. So I tried out, did my best, and I guess I was taken based on my height, as my first coach told me, because I had zero skill. So I was fortunate in that sense, but grew up playing club volleyball, got the experience, made it to the provincial level within 2 years. And then I played beach in the summers, indoor during the fall, winter. It's kind of just a tradition in the volleyball community. During the summer, you play beach volleyball. So just had my hands in it from the start. And I loved indoor the most. It was my passion, and that's what I wanted to focus on. I wanted to go play college indoor. I wanted to play professional indoor. So fortunately, I got a scholarship to Colorado State. Went and played with them, which was an amazing experience with a lot of learnings, positives, lows, all of the such. And by my junior year, actually my freshman year, I broke the starting lineup, which I didn't think I'd be able to do, but I worked so hard. That was my biggest focus. I broke the starting lineup, ended up being the starting middle blocker in my freshman year, and then was starting middle blocker from there on out until the end of my junior year. So my third year, I got shoulder surgery. So then I was kind of out from there, and I didn't recover properly, which is a whole nother story, which got me very passionate about injury recovery. So I had to sit out my senior year. And I graduated early. I took enough summer courses, took a heavy load in school. So I graduated a semester early, finishing my degree in 3.5 years, which gave me the extra half a year of my fourth year plus my fifth year to play a different sport. So I went and played beach volleyball because that's considered a different sport from indoor. So I got a 1.5 years to play. So transferred to USC. Fortunately, the coach there knew me from when I was younger. I came down to California for a tournament and she saw me there. So she trusted that she could coach me into the player she wanted, and went there, and it was an amazing experience. Just truly like such a high level team. They've been ranked number 1 5 years before I got there. They had won 3 national championships. So the level and the competitiveness, the whole atmosphere, the staff, everything was elite, high level. It felt like professional level. And my game just went like tenfold in learning, and it was the best thing I could have ever done for my development. So started there in 19 in January. And after about a month, I cracked the starting lineup, was able to played in the national championships that May. We made it to, I think, the quarters or something, not the best after winning 3 national championships. So then the next year, worked really hard. We ended up making the national championship final, and sadly we lost it to UCLA, but it was like a huge growth for my beach volleyball. So I thought going into it that I might want to go play indoor professionally after I was done. But after playing beach at USC, I was fully convinced that beach was the way for me. Way better atmosphere, in my opinion, better environment. You're outside, you're not stuck in a gym. Like there'd be days you don't see the sunlight when you play indoor. You're just in the gym all day. So way better atmosphere for life in general. And it was way easier on the body. Like my body was starting to fall apart playing indoor. I had every type of injury possible pretty much. So beach was just a lot more gentle on the joints. But now I find out it's a lot harder on the ligaments and tendons. But regardless, I stuck with beach and I went professionally on my own, stayed in California, was training there with my partner and my coach, and then COVID hit. So sadly, that was I had 6 months of being a professional athlete before COVID hit. And so I moved back to Toronto just to kind of wait this thing out, but it hasn't really ended. So still here, still training with the Canadian national team, getting myself ready for my chance to go on the world tour and compete. And sadly, right now, tournaments are kind of at a low because of COVID. So there's only a few available to the top players preparing for the Olympics. And so kind of waiting for my turn. Hopefully that is in the soon future. But yeah, so that's pretty much my volleyball story.
Yeah, no, and not even close to as lengthy as it could be. There's so much there. So much there to pull from. And I think like just touching on that, we could go anywhere. But the pieces that I pull sort of in listening to your story and having talked to you in the past as well is, you know, there's a quick learning curve for you, and maybe it's not learning, but it's performing, or it's learning about you in order to perform. And you talk about it sort of getting recognized physically, but absolutely no coordination early on, and then getting picked up and then cracking a starting lineup at Colorado State, going into the beach realm at USC, which is, you know, a top school, and cracking that lineup, quickly jumping on board there. And not to mention like humble you, not even mentioning you're earning a master's degree at the same time as competing for national championships with USC. So an amazing ascension, I guess, or journey or path or whatever we want to call it. And then the beach piece, you know, into the pro space and how you're navigating this through a pandemic. And hopefully that returns where you can get a tournament or two under your belt, because who knows, maybe it'll only take that for you. It seems like, you know, you get the opportunity, you shoot through the roof, and then you get the next opportunity, you shoot through the roof. So we'll wish you the best with that. But jump back to the piece on shoulder surgery while in your undergrad at Colorado State. Obviously, it's a repetitive or redundant sport in terms of hitting overhead. What was the surgery, if you're okay to talk about it, and sort of what did that look and feel like? I also want to get into sort of your current rehab or your most recent rehab with the back injury, and having to do that sort of on your own with the guidance of those that you trust helping you, and why that's such a big deal for you to advocate with and for other athletes. So lots of this to go around, but come back around to we'll start with the shoulder surgery and what you know of it, what contributed to it, and how you sort of navigated that.
Yeah, so I mean, the shoulder surgery is a good place to start, because that was my first true piece of adversity with my body and injury that forced me to look a little deeper about what's happening and what do I need to change. I mean, the amazing thing about sport, and not just sport, just any athletics, is that it forces you to learn so much more about your body. And if you don't do any athletics, even just working out, like you would probably not know so much about how your body works for you and what muscles are used on certain aspects of your daily life. So that injury, which was in 2017, was my first real point of like, okay, like I need to figure something else out because nothing else is working. My body is not working for me right now. What's happening? So in 2017 in the season, I just had shoulder pain, constant pain, down my bicep tendon. Everyone just kind of wrote it off as tendonitis because a lot of volleyball players have that, but it was awful pain. They put me on Celebrex, which I completely am mad and pissed that I was put on such heavy painkillers for 8 months, twice a day, every day, like crazy. Anyway, so kind of covered up the pain. After season finished, got the cortisone shot, waited it out, didn't get better. Came back, got the MRI done. They found there was a little bone spur on my acromion process that was irritating my rotator cuff. So they said, easiest fix, let's go in arthroscopically and shave that bone spur down. So got the shoulder surgery in 2017. So I guess, yeah, the pain was 2016. Got the shoulder surgery in 2017. Should have been an easy recovery. They said 3 to 4 months max. You'll be back playing by summer. We had a Europe trip with the team in June. Yeah, you'll be playing by there, no problem. So this recovery didn't really go as smooth as planned. It was going great at the beginning, but then by May, I still wasn't playing volleyball at all. I wasn't hitting a ball. I wasn't throwing balls overhead. And my coach started getting worried because we had this Europe trip, which means absolutely nothing. And he really wanted me to play on the Europe trip because there was no other middle blocker. The other one had to go play for her national team or something. So we really need Alex to come back in time to play. Otherwise, we don't have anyone. So I was pushed through my return to play protocol, which is like the last portion of your post-surgery return to play, which includes ball work and getting that full range of motion back. And that can go from 6 to 8 weeks to 9 weeks, depending on how your body reacts. Mine was in 4 weeks. And then I was back to full gameplay after not playing for 6 months. And in full gameplay, you're not minimizing your swings. It's not like you can roll shot and tip where it's easy to control the load you're putting on your shoulder. Right. You're hitting as hard as you can, especially for my position. You don't do anything other than hit as hard as you can straight down. So it was just going from 0 to 100 really quick. And that put my shoulder back a lot in my recovery. I developed really bad bicep tendonitis that lingered for 2 years after that point. So Europe trip happened. In my head, I'm thinking the pain is normal because that's what I'm being told. You had surgery. Of course you're going to have pain when you're playing. It's totally normal. It'll go away. Okay, great. So I continued to play all summer, played beach volleyball back in Canada. I got back to Colorado, had to start 2-a-day training, and I can't hit a ball. I am completely numb, pain in the shoulder, radiating down the bicep tendon. And I tried every day to go play, and I couldn't do it. I'm in tears on the court. Like I can't hit a ball, but I'm being yelled at by coaches. I'm being told by my surgeon that you're fine. Nothing's going to go wrong. You just have to push through. And eventually, I think it was about 1 week before season started, and the season opener, and I had a sit-down conversation with my coach, the head of the athletic department, the head of the rehab or the athletic trainers, and then my athletic trainer. And I said, that's it. Like, I am not playing. I'm not practicing hitting a ball until I do not have pain. And I don't care how long that takes. I'm not doing it. And I mean, obviously, there were some bad reactions. My coach told me that I will never again in my life not have shoulder pain, and that I just need to live through it and just suck it up. And I just didn't believe this. I didn't believe that at 20 years old, 21 years old, that I can never have shoulder pain again. So I stuck true to my word. I didn't play a game my senior year, which should have been my best year. I was on track to be an All-American. Didn't play. I only practiced if I had pain less than 5 out of 10, and I would max myself out a certain number of swings, and just spent all my other time rehabbing and in the gym. And while I'm nursing this injury, I also had really bad patella tendonitis. So nursing both injuries and just doing as much as I can. And this is where I really took kind of my own learnings I had. I did my undergrad in kinesiology, so kind of used my knowledge to think about what my body needed, because my trainers were giving me the stone cut program to heal a shoulder, heal bicep tendonitis, here's the program to heal patella tendonitis, but it's not working how much it should be, right? You have to realize, okay, this works well, this is not working super well. How can we maximize the gains that we need? And I realized that the best thing I needed for both injuries was to get as strong as I could in all the muscles surrounding those injuries. And this is something I firmly stand by, is just get as strong as possible in those surrounding muscles that support that tendon or ligament that's hurt. So that's all I did. I was in the gym. I got my own gym membership because we're not supposed to train on our own. I went and got my gym membership, the local gym. I was in there like 8 o'clock at night after class, getting in extra workouts, working on things that we weren't allowed doing in the gym. And I cured my patella tendonitis by myself. I cured my shoulder pain so that I could end up playing a match by the end of my year. And then I got out of there, left the school, and went to USC. And I mean, I still had a little bit of shoulder pain, but I was able to still play through the whole time and just monitor until it got to a point where I was pain-free. And right now, no shoulder pain. I still do my rehab every day, but I'm at a point where I'm stable, and I can firmly say that I will not live with shoulder pain for the rest of my life. I wish I could tell my coach that.
Absolutely. We can go back around, and maybe if they're listening, they'll pick this one up and share
right.
it out, but who knows? I think you speak to this so clearly, and there is definite sort of, I don't want to say anger, but obvious frustration and all of the things that you experienced along the way. But through those things as well, at the end of the day, they left you in a much better place in terms of understanding yourself. That's a big thing that we are pushing as practitioners, is to advocate for the athlete in order to have them advocate for themselves, because as practitioners we may know a little bit more about framework and timelines and exercise physiology, and this is what the textbook says you should respond to, but there is a huge element of understanding the human being and listening to what's going on with athletes. And for you to share this, I think this is absolutely massive. And unfortunately, you're not the only athlete that goes through this. You get pushed and pushed and pushed. And there is an element of commoditization, obviously, in pro sport, and it trickles down into pseudo pro sport. I mean, the scholarship athlete and the NCAA Division I athlete and beyond. There's a commoditization that happens there where, we need you, so you're just going to move and you're going to play, and we're just going to rush this along, and obvious setbacks along the way. So this pushed aspect of things, it's amazing to hear you stand up for yourself, put your foot down, go in and have the uncomfortable conversation, knowing that everyone on the other side of the table is saying you're fine. You know that you're not fine. What did it take to have that conversation in terms of building yourself up to that? And then what did it feel like after that, whether immediately or now? It must just feel like you have to be proud of that. That's a massive undertaking.
It was so tough. I cried for so long before. I didn't think I had the guts to do it. I mean, the issue is that growing up in sports, there's this unconscious rule that you should push through adversity, and for sure you should, but there's certain adversities with pain that you probably shouldn't push through. And I think a lot of people aren't as in tune with their bodies, where they like to ignore the signals that are being said. And I'm very in tune with my body. I know exactly when a pain is going to cause me issues later that night, later the week, later that year, or if it's just pain because it's a little inflamed, it will go away by the nighttime. I'm fine. I can push through this. So I knew for sure I had to. I knew that I had to stop. I knew that I had it. It wasn't helping me to keep playing. I knew I had to spend that time getting stronger and doing other things. So I told my trainer this, and fortunately he stood beside me and he said, like, I think you can push through, but I'm going to stand behind you no matter what. So if you need to stop, I will support you, and I will tell the coach, like, this is what she needs to do. So luckily I had his backing, which gave me a little bit more confidence. And yeah, then you just got to stick true to your gut. Whatever you know, like if you know deep down it's the right decision for you, that's all you got to do. Because in the end of the day, these coaches, these programs, even trainers and stuff, they care about your well-being for the 4 years that you're there. Sadly, once you're done, once you're 30 years old, 40 years old, they don't care how your shoulder feels or your back feels. They don't care. So like the only way you can possibly like secure your future and your body and your health is to stand up for yourself every single day that you enter a situation. So I think it's really, really important for kids to realize that their voice matters, and it's not just their coaches or their trainer's voice that matters in terms of telling them what to do. Like they should be number one. And good trainers will check in with you and like ask for your opinion, which I've had a lot of good ones like that, but I've also had other ones that have told me that no, like the MRI says you're fine. The MRI shows no inflammation, shows no injury. You're fine. You should just keep going. So it's ultimately about how you communicate and how the staff around you communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. And that voice does matter. And I think, you know, the more that practitioners participate in that conversation and be ready to listen as opposed to ready to answer or ready to speak in response. Absolutely. There's an advocacy piece. Younger athletes sometimes don't know. Let's call it like you're a victim of that going through, and somebody's telling you, this is what's best for you. This is what's best for you. This is what's best for you. Without that kin degree yet, without that understanding, you know, as you're going through, Celebrex for 8 months, you know, twice a day. Like we know what that does long term. We know the dosage of Celebrex that should be used. You know, that's a heavy anti-inflammatory with virtually all of its side effects, you know, relative to the GI and what happens in gastrointestinal function and dysfunction based on long-term use. And then the surgery, you know, okay, that didn't work, then let's go to surgery. And you're not the first athlete, you're not the last athlete, but you are an athlete that's been exposed to surgery, and at the other end, the surgery fixes a piece of tissue or significant tissue or multiple pieces of tissue, but not necessarily the issue. And so what comes around goes around. If we fix something anatomically, there's still all of those other myriad of factors that go into what caused the injury and what's going to cause re-injury or re-aggravation following surgery. Right. And there's some other things here too that I want to jump into, but yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's funny. I don't know if it's just more commonplace in the States or not, but for them, it was that there was no other option. It was just surgery. Let's go. You've tried to rest already with the cortisone. That's it. But then I came back to Canada that summer after surgery, and my physio here, who is amazing, she was like, why did you get surgery? You could have fixed this with other things. You could have tried these certain rehabs. Did you try this yet? No. Oh, why did you go straight to the surgery? Why was there no other step? So yeah, it's never, I personally believe that surgery is not the answer unless it is the last answer. You've done everything else. You've exhausted everything. And that's the only way to fix it.
Yeah, and I mean, I would agree. You know, there are scenarios where surgery is, or if the research has been done that shows this surgery has this outcome, and we know
Right.
that at X percentage, this is going to have exponential positive outcomes, or enhance what you're doing, or get you to where you need to be and beyond. And so, you brought up a lot of things that I just want to touch back on. If anybody who's listening hasn't listened to the session with Glenn Bergeron, he's an amazing athletic therapist at the University of Winnipeg, and he was on, and we just had a couple minutes together the other night, which reminded me. And he treats in his clinic, actively with athletic therapists that are going through the program. And the one thing that he shared that really stuck, well, one of the many things that stuck in my mind was he treats athletes not for that moment, not for the next game, but for that athlete as a 60, 65-year-old grandparent picking up their grandchildren. And so he has this future vision as he's treating. I'm going to make a good decision in your corner on your behalf, not for today, not for tomorrow, but for your future. And I think that's a lesson that we can all learn. I'll admit, being in the pro space and in university sport, it sometimes gets sped up a little bit, and your MO is pushed by administration or front office saying we need this to happen by this date. Can you make this? Can you get the quarterback back? Can you get the goalie back in time to play? And you see this, and it gets embodied in us as practitioners as well. And I don't think any of it is malicious in its nature, but it looks that way certainly at the other side when you see what athletes go through and hear your story, and you share this so amazingly, and this strength in sharing this certainly reverberates to practitioners that pick up this podcast, and to athletes and to coaches and to human beings to stand up for the things that intuitively you feel either wronged or you feel deeply right about. Like, have that conversation no matter how hard it is, because you'll ultimately get to the result. Now listen, I want to go one place that we hadn't even planned or thought or talked on, but I hear you talking about the surgery and the long rehab at Colorado State, and that you're not going to play in your final year. And then it's like you change venues, you go over to USC for your master's, and just in listening to you speak, there's almost like a relief that you've left an environment that was almost negative, let's say. And I'm not blaming the school or anything like that, but leaving that environment and going somewhere else to experience something new, the mental piece, the psychological component of being in an environment where you're not getting better or you're not getting listened to, and then transitioning over somewhere else. And I feel the relief in you saying that. And then you go and you're back, and your shoulder pain is, I'm not saying it was made up at Colorado State, but now you transition over, and I'm being heard. I'm being listened to. I can manage my load. That obviously makes a difference, but can you capture that, or is that fair? Is that a fair assessment just in listening to your story?
Yes, 100%. I think part of it all comes down, and this is kind of what you were touching on, it all comes down from whoever's at the top, and whatever is usually the coach, the head coach. It's their attitude, their mindset is kind of what dictates everyone else. And so sadly at Colorado State, my coach had put a lot of pressure on everyone, including the therapist. And I'm not gonna lie, therapists have a hard job, and you can't blame them if they do maybe not do the best thing, because I mean, my therapist was going into my coach's office and coming out crying sometimes because my coach would rip her apart. And it's not fair to them, like, that they are trying to get an athlete healthy and have to pull them from a game because they have the best interest of the athlete in mind, and then they get like yelled at for something that's not their fault. So yeah, I think it comes from the head down. And unfortunately, at Colorado State, it was a more aggressive mentality. It was very competitive. That's probably where it all comes down to. But at USC, the coach was a little bit more empathetic, and she was a professional athlete herself. She had played beach professionally. She knew what it's like to have bad injuries. She had all the injuries I've had. So whenever I explained them to her, she was like, yep, done that. You should try this because that helped me. Take your time. Hey, you can go to practice. What doesn't hurt you? Okay, let's do those things. And then the odd time she would try to push me a little, like, you're not getting out of this drill. Let's do a little more, until I said, no, like, I'm actually done. And I think the best part about that is that I could speak to my coach about how I felt.
Absolutely.
It didn't have to go through my trainer and the trainer run on the court and go tell my coach, oh, she has no more swings, she's done. And then I have to stand there just like a pawn that's being played by other people. So it all comes down to the communication, how open you are for feedback and how open you are to discuss something versus demand a certain result out of something.
Absolutely. And I pull that parallel with the surgery as well, secondary complications after surgery, something different or mechanically or something like that. Same thing with communication. If there's broken telephone along the way or the athlete is seen as not having their own voice, there's no clarity there. So providing clarity, if the environment allows it, the communication piece front and center, I would put that at, the top of my list for any therapist that's out there, is having clear lines. If you are the liaison between coach and athlete or administration and athlete, or however it goes, making sure that those lines are clear. Sometimes they get blurred and too much wordiness or things get lost in translation. So it's a great point. And I think hearing it from somebody at this high level that's been so many places and experienced what you have, absolutely brilliant. And I hope others will highlight this one as well.
I mean, I actually hate it how the system is usually that you can't even talk to your coach. I think the best thing I had was that my trainer would come with me to a meeting with my coach and then say her opinion, I'd say my opinion, and then the coach could react to it. No program should ever be just trainer and coach, because as the athlete, you have no idea what's truly being said. You don't know what the trainer's saying to your coach about how you feel, if they're explaining your feelings accurate, and you don't know what the coach is saying back to the trainer. So you should always be there as your own advocate with the people that are the experts. And I mean, as a professional, you never rely upon the trainer to tell your coach. You directly tell your coach how you feel. I mean, maybe in team sports it's different, but I feel like that all trainers should always bring the athlete along, or at least have them immediately after to tell them exactly what's being said, and to accurately know what they want and how they feel.
Yeah, and that accuracy piece goes a long way as well. Just hearing and listening and making sure that it is delivered. You've had a bunch of practitioners along the way, some good experiences, some not so good experiences. We had, and just another shout out here, just because I thought of it, we had two greats on here the other day over from Riga, Latvia. They were with Team Canada. So Dom Nicoletta and Kevin Elliott, who were with Team Canada. And again, a little plug for this podcast. Canada went 0-3 to start the tournament. Those guys came on the podcast after their first win and won every single game since coming on this podcast, including a gold today. So I'm not saying it's the podcast, but I'm saying it's the podcast. And when you have good people in your corner, good things happen. It doesn't always have to be gold medals. It doesn't always have to be wins and those, but those are sort of, recognized as value these days. You went from Canada to the U.S. college experience. That's eye-opening in its own right. Shoulder surgery onto a master's degree, now at the national level, waiting for this COVID thing to spin a little bit on its axis so you can get some competition and get on that world tour. You're coming off a back injury. You mentioned you have a great therapist that's been very helpful along the way, and this back injury hasn't been easy. You haven't been able to see everybody. You've had to do a lot of stuff on your own. How has that gone? And again, knowing yourself, I think this all comes back to knowing yourself. You do an amazing job of knowing who you are and what you need and figuring out that. But when you need somebody, how do you go about finding somebody to have in your corner?
It's a good question. It's tough. I mean, for my back injury alone, I started feeling the pain when I was in California. So I had no idea who was a good trainer, physio, chiro there. I had no one. I just had to rely upon a few recommendations. So over the course of my injury, which was about, I still deal with it, but the real bad injury, probably about 8-9 months, I saw 5 different practitioners. So 3 chiros, 2 physios, and every single one told me something different. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty common for any injury that's hard to diagnose. A back injury sometimes is hard if there's not a direct cause. It's hard to correlate it with that. So I did have herniated discs, almost herniated bulging discs according to an MRI, but I was ruled out by one of my physios that that's not what's causing me pain. So then we had to figure out what is actually causing me pain. And over the course, I really still don't know what is the true cause, but I'm attributing it to just imbalances in strength, and that causes certain issues. I mean, my one chiro said one leg is shorter. Someone else said it's because my ribs are different and I have to do the PRI exercises. Someone else says like it's just my QL tight. So I would say you have to just keep going to the next person, go to the next recommendation until someone sticks. And every single one I learned something from that I still do today. So it's not like anything's ever going to be worthless. You really just got to keep trying at 100% effort every time you go to someone new. And then you'll know for sure, okay, that one only works 25%. The next one works 10 more percent. Then someone works 20 more percent. And then finally you're back up to your 100 through everybody's contributions.
Yeah, it's great. It's tough. It's not easy to navigate. I wish we could just throw it out there and say this person's amazing at everything and just go see them and there's one central hub. It's tough to navigate. Everybody has an opinion, certainly, whether one leg is longer or the rib cage flares. Again, the technique, the skills, the tricks of the trade, those are a dime a dozen. I think when you get somebody who listens to you, you can figure it out together and you're no longer dependent on the practitioner other than some expertise that you don't have to provide you with some things that can make you feel better and get you moving in the right direction. And I think this part of things goes a long way. Like we've touched on some things that aren't necessarily by the book in terms of when we go through school as practitioners and come out the other side. Nobody told us about this stuff. No, we don't take a course on communication, but maybe we're moving in that direction, you know, and there's a really good book out there that Brett Bartholomew wrote and lots of people have read and, you know, and it's conscious coaching, right? And it's being aware of your environment, being aware of what type of athlete, what type of human is in front of you, what makes them tick. And I was listening to a bunch of different pieces and trying to put some thought into, you know, navigating this with athletes and for athletes, and who better to say it than you? You know, you're an athlete who's lived as an athlete and as a human being for as long as you have, and navigated the floor, you've navigated the beach, and doing an amazing job, you know, through the pandemic and getting you out the other side. I don't know. I'm in awe of all the things that you've done and accomplished and continue to sort of push. So where, I guess, along the way did that come from? This sort of idea of I have to push myself because this external validation or this external push can actually be negative if it doesn't understand what's happening internally. And this drive to do it internally is the separator. It's the great divider between those that continue on and those that don't, is when I can find it here, I can take it further. But if it's being dictated outside of me, whether it's rehab or competition or, you know, completing a master's degree, like whatever the case may be, all amazing accomplishments, was that a conscious thing or did that sort of just evolve through your experiences?
Well, first, thank you for that kind words.
You.
I would say it's probably both ingrained and formed. My father is a very, very dedicated person. He started on his own business and he's grinded since the beginning. So I grew up watching him work every day from home endlessly. So the whole notion of working hard for something was really, really ingrained in me from the start. And because my family wasn't a sports family and never watched sports, I had to prove to them from like once I got serious that this was worth my time, basically, as they wanted me to get into academics, a very academic family. And my father blatantly said that you're not going into this for fun, and that if you want to do this, you're going to do it properly. I think his exact words. So that kind of mindset of not settling for second best is kind of been ingrained in my family life. And then in just my own development, I think every adversity that I faced, mainly with injuries, but also with dealing with difficult coaches or other difficult teams you're playing against, or any kind of adversity, it's forced me to look inwards and see what I need to do better and different. And I mean, that's the best thing about adversity, is it makes you realize you're not doing something at the best ability that you can. So I mean, for example, I remember my freshman year, I rolled my ankle really badly, and I was out for 2 or 3 weeks, and it forced me to realize that I wasn't fighting as hard on the court as I should be, and I wasn't enjoying it as much, because the moment I was out, I realized I really want to be out on the court. I need to enjoy every moment I'm out there, because it may be taken away from me. Then the next few years, I get a concussion, and I learn about how important my blocking is, and then I need to change the way I block, because I'm blocking right now with my arms wide apart and I can get hit in the face. Let me become a better blocker and get my hands over the net better. And next year, my shoulder injury, I learned that I need to strengthen my rotator cuff and work on my internal rotation. That was absolutely horrible. And do all these things that I wasn't looking at before. And they weren't even on my radar. I didn't know them, right? So just every adversity has forced me to learn something new that will take me to that next level. So me being the high achiever and a little bit of a geek, I like to learn about the things that I can do better. And then if I don't do them, I feel like I'm not doing my best. So I hold myself to a very high standard. And I think that's why I tend to excel in situations where I'm not the best, because it forces me to raise my level as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and holding yourself to a high standard also involves advocating for yourself to that same high standard, and you know, nature versus nurture, but this is nature and nurture. You know, some comes naturally, the rest we have to sort of embody and embrace. And I love that sort of adversity teaching us what we can do better versus being what's stopping us. And you're up in you know, cottage country with nature behind you, and you're nurturing all of us with this story, and sort of, you know, watering the seeds for practitioners and athletes and coaches across the board. It's amazing. These are great shares, and again, I truly appreciate your time, everybody's time who's here and picking this up. This is what it is all about. Listening to these conversations, being a part of this community allows us to, I think, find more, to go to spaces that if I haven't been there, I'm hearing you, I'm listening to you, and with your story, getting into some corners that are uncomfortable, understanding that the uncomfortable outside of the surgery, but those uncomfortable conversations are the ones that are going to create change. They're going to drive things to happen in a manner that is more succinct and more in line with the athlete that's across the table, and get on the same side of the table and come at this thing in the best possible way. So just a little housekeeping. I'll let you wrap this one up. It's been amazing. But just let me get into our next guests. And then you can close this out with some lessons to therapists, lessons to athletes, whatever you want to close with. I'll leave that up to you to finish. But next week we'll go again, same time, same channel, with two athletic therapists that have reconnected on a passion project. We did one from the West Coast with Island ACL. This one is Healing Kinetics with Thomas Nichols and Maui. Two great young therapists that are making their way and have come back and reconnected. The following week we'll have Nicole Sullivan, who is a physiotherapist, a part of the national therapist for beach volleyball, an amazing physiotherapist. She'll be on. Session 79 will go with UBC's newest head coach for women's basketball, Coach Erin McAleenan. And then our session 80, which we're yet to determine the date, will go with Drew Hutchison, part 404 of the Tommy John series. We're going to wrap up that series with Drew, who was a high school draft pick, had Tommy John at 21 years of age and has bounced around from organization to organization in pro baseball. An amazing guy, an amazing story, and his take on Tommy John and baseball. This is session 76, as always, brought to you by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape Epic, and Benchmark Athletics in association with the CATA. Alexandra Poletto, session 76. It's been a pleasure learning, listening, talking with you through this story and watching the sun slowly go down behind you, but certainly not going down on your career. We are waiting for COVID to shift gears so we can see you back on that world tour, and very much look forward to that. If there's anything I or we can do into the future, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can connect or get connected. Others as well, if people want to follow you, maybe start there, where people can follow you or reach out, and then I'll let you close this thing out. I'll welcome you to close it out. Everybody who's been here, thank you so much. Alex, over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess Instagram is Alexandra Poletto if you want to follow along. My closing thoughts for athletes, I would say a quote. I made my own quotes. That's how much of a geek I am. Is that if you do everything at 100%, you'll never regret anything. So I try to live by this. Obviously, it's hard, but no matter what you're doing, if you're walking, if you're breathing, if you're reading a book, do it at 100% and you won't regret it. And that has helped me in terms of my dedication to do rehab through months and months of injury where then you think there's no end. It's helped me with practicing when you get burnt out and you don't want to go to that practice. It's helped me with my workouts during COVID, doing them all by yourself in your basement. And no matter what you're doing, even if today you can only do one set of things, do it at 100% and you won't regret it, because then you know you did your best in that moment. So that would be my one advice for athletes, as well as for therapists. I would say, I kind of thought about this while you were talking, is I think the best therapist is somebody who is not afraid to say they don't know how to cure something or fix something or what's going to help you specifically, and is not afraid to learn from the athlete or whoever they're training and recommend other people and be like, what I'm doing is not taking you to 100%. Let's get you to someone else. And right now I have a concussion, unfortunately, and the physio I'm working with has recommended me to like a naturopath, a neurooptometrist, like with meditation guidance, like all these different things, because she's an expert in one field, but she's like, you need help in all these different ways. And it's getting me back to that 100. So I would say that's probably a really big thing to note as a therapist. Other than that, I think I've touched on most things, but thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure, and I'd love to be back in the future, hopefully after a professional career, keeping my body pain-free. But yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. And I don't know, does go a long, long way. And I don't know when it'll be, but we look forward to seeing you on tour. It'll be there, it'll happen. Keep pushing. Within your limits, know your limits, advocate for yourself, work with the people who work with you. We'll talk to you soon. Wish everybody good night. This is session 76, so let's chat. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online. firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.